Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. We're live this evening. This happens to be February the 17th. The days are going rapidly, the month is going quickly, and the year has just begun, but we're almost in the middle of the second month of the brand new year 2016. I hope everyone is well. I hope you're enjoying the weather we are having, whether cold or sunny, but at least it's not really untenable weather. We can handle it. We're here in Illinois, so stand in a corner and it'll change at any time. This evening's program, as you may have seen from our front page, is District 112 School Referendum. This is very important here in Highland Park. And I hope that everybody is watching and listening, because this affects everyone here that lives in this community. And this is the largest endeavor that the school district has ever tried in the entire state of Illinois, which is a shocker, ought to shake the socks off you. So we have two gentlemen on the program this evening, Lauren Schechter and Davis Schneiderman, and they're going to talk about their opinion of what they feel, since we are all residents in this little suburban area, and our voices need to be heard. And we must remind you, the viewers, that March 15th is voting day, and this will be coming up on the referendum. We want you to go out to vote, but vote with intelligence, vote being informed, and vote being educated as what this will get you into. Your vote is your own, but just remember, you have to live with that vote if that happens, or doesn't happen, whatever. Your opinion, my opinion, and the gentleman, their opinion. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce to you Lauren Schechter and Davis Schneiderman. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you, and so excited that you did come because we need your opinion in this very important issue that concerns all of us, really all of us. So now, Lauren, what's your opinion on this? I mean, you're not against a school, you're not against kids getting an education, you're not against, where your school is located. So what brings you here to tell the people on live cable what you're thinking?
Well, first of all, Bev, let me thank you for having both Davis and I on the show. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
And as you said, we encourage people to get out and vote on March 15th. This is really one of the most important issues facing our community, certainly that I can remember, and having been raised here. This is truly an issue that affects not just those with children in the district, but the entire community. I have real concerns about the referendum that's on the ballot, and I'll be voting no, and let me tell you why.
Oh.
There are challenges facing our schools in our district, and we recognize that. Many of us involved in the opposition are ourselves educators or former educators, and to answer your question, we support educational initiatives. So it's a bit unusual that we find ourselves on the other side of
opposing
this
team. Okay.
Opposing team. But I'm concerned. What I'm looking for is a good plan. I'm looking for a good way out, a good path through this forest. What I find concerning about the current referendum, I find it to be financially irresponsible, educationally unsound, and also fails to respect the neighborhood school model that has really made Highland Park educationally the gem of the North Shore. That's why I'll be voting no on March 15th.
And Davis, your idea of what this is, are you more inclined to Lauren's idea, or?
Yeah, thank you for asking, and I want to also echo Lauren by thanking you for having us on the show.
again.
We walked in and I was immediately taken by this fantastic set, and the fact that you've been doing this for so long, it's a real service to the community.
Thank you.
I have a lot of respect for that.
I enjoy helping out.
I think that's great. What's interesting is that I only met Lauren through this process. And while he grew up here, I come from elsewhere. And what's interesting about Highland Park is it's such a mix of people who maybe grew up here, maybe moved away for a while and then came back. And then people like me I came here for a job reason. In 2001, I moved to the area, but I moved to Highland Park in 2005. And I chose Highland Park because there's so many beautiful and wonderful assets to the community. I love the library. I love the beachfront.
It's a historical area,
It's
truly.
a historical area. It's a vibrant community with a downtown. I live in the Ravinia area, which has its own little downtown.
Outstanding.
Right? I love the parks. There's 50-something parks. I've tried to visit all of them. I love the bike trails. I love the sense of community that all of the different neighborhoods in their own way have.
Sure.
When you go all the way to Olsen Park, all the way down to where I am, all the way up to Fort Sheridan. There's so many distinct communities, and they make a patchwork of what makes this place really, really special. So when I began to learn about the reconfiguration process that District 112 was proposing, I became interested. What are they doing? How are they doing it? Why are they doing it? And the more that I learned, the more I began to have concerns. And my concerns echo many of Lauren's. I'm concerned about the process that I think has left out many, many opportunities for meaningful community input. I'm concerned about the questionable educational value of the plan that's on the ballot, which we can talk about. And I'm also concerned about finances. Now, finances are not my driving concern. I'm someone who works in higher education. And higher education.
So education is your...
It's a huge thing for me, and I work in higher education administration. Yeah. So I understand sometimes that you need to make tough choices, and that you have to, at the end of the day, balance the books, and you need revenue in order to run a district. But I also understand that if you compromise your mission in doing so, right? If you somehow change all of the chess pieces so that you're no longer playing the same game, the costs of that are substantial, and there's no turning back from this referendum.
Oh, no.
If we vote for it, we can't undo it.
No.
So I'm troubled by it.
That is a ball of yarn that once it starts to unravel, that will lead to such devastation. My opinion. Now, I'm not telling anybody else what they should do, but I'm just saying that you made a very good point about the financial aspect of this. And although we've seen signs saying vote no, vote yes, that's their opinion, and they're certainly welcome to it.
Absolutely.
But does the public really know what they're getting into?
It's so funny that you said that, because in your hand is a card that I found the other night, and it's a card that the yes people printed up, and on the back of it, it kind of ticks off some of the reasons that they have for voting for it. And I was taken with this list, particularly for what it doesn't say, because it doesn't say what I think a lot of people don't know. And what they don't know is that this is a plan to close all 3 middle schools that we have now, Northwood, Edgewood, Elm Place, and to build 1 central middle school. And that middle school will have somewhere between 1,800 and 2,000 students, depending upon the demography of the district.
I'll correct you on one thing. It's not central.
What's that?
It's at the southwest corner.
Oh, did I say central? I certainly didn't mean to say central.
And
oh, yeah, yes.
I see.
Yes. I mean, it's going to be in the Sherwood Red Oak property. Yes, absolutely.
I chuckled a little bit when I said out here, financial stability for North Shore School District 112. Excuse me, financial stability?
It's so interesting that you bring that up, because that's right now.
It grabs me at the throat. I'm just.
Yeah, Bev, that let me focus on that for 1 minute, because that issue should cause people to take pause. What was very troubling to me, whether you support the plan or not, is that last week on February 9th, we learned something quite new, that the financial basis, many of the financial assumptions built into this model were incorrect. So what many of us have been hearing from the district over the course of the last several months through extensive public relations campaigns and community meetings is that we would in fact have financial stability, I believe, for, quote, decades to come. Now the tune is quite different. Now we're looking more along the lines of far shorter term, something along the lines of 2026. So while this plan, this referendum, has been sold to us as curing the financial ills of the district, it's really an expensive Band-Aid.
What Lauren is referring to is a correction that the Chief Financial Officer, Mohsen Dada, made at the February 9th Board of Education meeting. And I think a lot of people don't know about it, and we can forgive them for not knowing about it because the district hasn't amended their documents, hasn't presented that the information has been changed. But if you don't mind, I can just summarize it.
Please
right here,
do.
right?
Please
Okay.
do.
So this is for people who maybe don't know. At the February 9th board meeting, Chief Financial Officer Mohsen Dada admitted to a material error in the financial projections that grossly overstated the savings of this middle school plan. According to the district, this plan, which is a referendum for $198 million, that doesn't include the interest, will not secure our finances for a generation, but will solve our financial issues for only 5 years after the project completion date. 112 has sold this plan to voters with claims that it fixes our financial problems. And here's an example from their website. They have a frequently asked questions document. This is from November 13th, 2015. It was updated.
Sure.
Here's the quote. Projected savings are estimated to be between $4 million and $4.8 million annually. Compounded over a 30-year period, the life of the bond issue we would have to pay off, this translates to a total of more than $190 million. Now, not only is this wrong, completely wrong, in light of Mr. Dada's correction, but it was never actually right. We will not begin achieving any savings until 2021 when the project is complete. The statement's always been incorrect, but now instead of going out 30 years from now, which it never really did, but going out 25, in 2026 we begin to become financially imperiled. And then within a few years, we can get into a much more tenuous situation. You may not know about this because the district staff still has all these documents on their website, right? Or at least this document
I don't
that
know.
says materially the opposite of this. It's unheard of, from my perspective, to be going into a major referendum. This is the largest tax increase in Highland Park history. This is the largest referendum per capita in state of Illinois history.
State of
I
Illinois,
believe,
this is
right?
true.
And to find out 4 or 5 weeks before that there's been an error in the financial projections that's millions of dollars. And someone talked to me this morning and said, I did a mail ballot and I mailed my ballot and I voted for it. Think about, and this person was upset
Well,
to
I
learn
should
about
say
this, right?
so.
Right.
It's influencing the election, or could be.
I think that's a critical point, Bev,
It is.
that people have been voting by mail based on information which is inaccurate. So I think really it should cause everyone to take pause because this information really questions the underpinnings of the entire argument.
I have been to a number of board meetings from 112, and I sit and I listen. They have their papers out, and you
Yeah.
take a paper and whatever. But if their thought pattern is one way, and they're putting out on paper, black and white, another statement, the public tends to believe what they see and not what
Absolutely.
they know.
You're absolutely correct. And while they're officially in a phase where they can't engage in political speech 60 days before a referendum, they're not allowed to say anything but the facts.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, one thing is the facts are not correct, and they should change those facts and use at least as much effort in disseminating the change as they did in disseminating
Well,
the
who
original
is
information.
going to speak up and make that comment then?
Well, we made that comment at last night's board meeting,
yes.
It
and
wasn't addressed during the meeting.
was
Was
not
it
addressed.
telecast? Was it on
yeah,
cable?
yeah,
Was
yeah.
it on? The
Well, they archive, they live stream, and
Yeah.
then they archive all of their meetings.
Well, who's going to call them on it?
Well, a number of people have, but so far there's been no action that we can see. But what's interesting is that you're right. We're up against not only the fact that people believe what they read, and people, trust institutions because that's what you want.
Well,
Well,
Unless you've been burned by
unless
one.
you've been burned.
Then, there's corruption, a whole
Sure.
bunch of other goodies.
And I'm not suggesting that this is corrupt. I just think it's a broken process. And I think that's really important. I think the people on the school board are generally good people who believe that they're making the right choices. But I also know that President Kennedy thought it was the right choice to invade Cuba, right? I mean, like, groupthink can
My
set
husband was on that border ready to go.
Yeah.
He's
It's easy in a broken
Yeah.
process for groupthink to set in. And when you talk about sort of what we're up against, well, the district had contracted last year, from about the mid-August on, maybe I'm off a month, a PR firm to do their communications, a crisis communication firm.
Oh, sure, they'll push for whatever they do.
So
to
they
get,
spend
to get it in.
$12,000 a month shaping messaging, including that frequently asked question document that I just read, that now is incorrect. So it's a challenge.
So then where do we go from here? If it's incorrect, and you have this documentation that says it's incorrect, who is going to straighten it out? Because we're going to go to the polls March the 15th.
Yeah.
Well,
Actually, it's a month away.
Yep. Well, that's why shows like this are important. Speaking to your neighbors, getting the message out is critical. So we're glad to be here so that we can help educate the voters as to the significant concerns related to the basis, really, of this referendum. But let me also get away from the finances. The finances are important, but it's also about the educational model.
Absolutely.
That's what concerns me more. We moved back to Highland Park. Both my wife and I grew up here. We moved back for the neighborhood school model. We didn't choose to live in other neighboring suburbs because, for example, we didn't want a 4,000-person high school. We're now facing a 1,900-person middle school at the age of 5th grade. We're sort of kicking ourselves, wishing, well, at least if we had moved somewhere else, we'd have a 9th grader who's facing this, not a 5th grader. It's interesting when we talk about the building, whether it's one building or two, sometimes we find that the building is considered one building when they're trying to discuss administrative efficiencies, but two buildings when people raise concerns about 5th graders being in proximity to the 8th graders.
The older kids.
Right,
Yeah.
and educators really accept the fact that at the elementary and middle school level, smaller is better. Also, when you close neighborhood schools, that also has adverse effects on individuals. Taking the parents' ability to engage with their teachers out. You know what I found really interesting to me, I just learned, and Davis can probably talk more, they're doing away with the face-to-face parent-teacher conferences.
That's the best part of
Well,
going
what
to
I
school.
found really amazing is that one of the reasons for this single building is so that the administrators would be able to sit down and talk face-to-face.
Sure.
Yet somehow, all of a sudden, it's no longer important for the parents to be able to meet face-to-face with their children's teachers. I found that a little bit ironic.
And then people complain that their children go astray because they have no one to talk to, or there's no role model. I mean, the teacher is there, the administrator is there, the parents should, this is what I'm used to, my 7 children, come and see the kids, what they do, talk with them.
That's right.
How can they progress, what they're deficient in, how can you help them, all of those good things. And now we're so modernized that we don't need to have a human being. What do? Talk to a robot?
Well, what I find quite interesting is many of the reasons you cited, the administration cites for the importance of face-to-face communication between the administrator, but not between the parents and their children's teachers.
One of the challenges of this is its location. I mean, aside from the fact that I don't agree with the size, the scope, the educational model, it's also the fact that this is closer to Northbrook Court than it is to most of Highland Park. And we have 24% low-income population in our district. Many of us appreciate the economic and the ethnic diversity in parts of Highland Park. I certainly do. My oldest daughter is adopted from China. My youngest daughter is part Puerto Rican. I have a multiracial, multi-ethnic, international family. What I'm concerned about is when we move the school far away from those who are most economically vulnerable, though, who in our district tend to be clustered on the north side.
Yeah.
Not exclusively, but that's where the cluster is. We're making it harder for participation in parent-teacher organizations,
That's right.
extracurricular activities. All the ways that we want to make it a community school isn't just because like, oh, it's great, I can walk 2 minutes and be there. It's because I can participate in the life of that school.
Sure.
And we're making that harder. And the research suggests that in large schools, it's the most economically vulnerable who struggle, right? If you have a lot of resources, you can get tutors, you can advocate for yourself. But this seems to me to be a disservice, or at least if there's research that suggests it's a good idea, I haven't seen it. In fact, all the literature reviews on this, there's an article by Slayton Jones from 2005. It says big schools are not good ideas.
It's like a factory.
Yeah.
What do you know, it's an assembly line.
Well, it's interesting to me also that I believe, again, regardless of whether you're for or against the referendum, that it is a responsibility of the board and the district to disseminate potential benefits and potential downsides.
Sure.
There's no downsides to this if you
There's
look
no
at their
downside.
website.
Well, that's because you've got one side talking.
Exactly.
Well, that's right. And you know what else? What I also find concerning when we talk about or when the district talks about the theoretical advantages, what they're really talking about are ways to mitigate the adverse effects of large schools. And quite frankly, district officials themselves said many times in open meetings, no one wants a large school. No one wants a large school.
Are they not hearing what they're saying?
Well, they've
No
convinced
one wants a large
themselves-
school, but-
yeah, they've convinced themselves that this is the only possible solution to a financial problem, and they've retrofitted the educational model onto it to say, oh yeah, and it's also a world-class 21st century future-focused learning environment.
Is there a model somewhere? What state has a model that they are, the administrators or the board or whatever, are trying to perform? Is it Wyoming? Is it Nebraska? Where is this?
They'll tell you that there are schools like this. Lake Forest has a kind of similar model to middle school, but the population of the school is significantly less, and the demographics of the district are significantly different. And and in Wilmette has 2 schools that are separated by a field, but it's a similar configuration. I think a 5, a 6, and a 7, 8. And they say, well, we're just like Wilmette, except that's right in the center of town, so it's sort of equal accessibility for everyone.
So you're telling me the 6 schools that they want to close, that would be neighborhood schools,
Yeah.
these kids now have to board a bus and be driven across town
Yeah.
down to this little area.
And let me talk about that for a minute, Beth, because it's important. My wife, Becky, again, went to Braeside, Edgewood, the high school. Becky's an endocrinologist. She was an assistant professor of endocrinology at the University of Chicago. She's an expert in obesity and metabolism. She's raised concerns based on arguments from the Center for Disease Control, the Surgeon General, the First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign, all indicating and citing the importance of the ability and the fact that we should be encouraging children to walk to school. This does quite the opposite. I understand that not every child in the community can walk to school, but when 95% require busing, that to me is not a reason I move back for a community school.
And we're talking, consider the weather. I mean, it's really not too bad today. It's February, but this is Illinois, and it's winter. And for them to have to close a school, I mean, 8 or 10 feet of snow, I mean, a kid could not walk that distance, even if it was short. But buses, cars can't drive. I mean, the consideration is, there's no consideration.
Well, you're quite right. Let me also mention the fact that multiple traffic studies have cited the substantial traffic challenges of getting not only the children into this single middle school.
Ugh.
Remember, you'll have no elementary school west of 41. You'll have no junior high east of 41. All the kids from Highland Park for middle school will have to go into this campus. All the children living west of 41 for elementary school will have to come out. So I have real concerns associated with
We contacted...
Not even
yeah.
logical. Not even logical,
Yeah.
really.
Well, and to think about it this way, aside from the fact that now you're clustering this giant group of students in one area, forget for a second that the elementary school students are now being bussed out. What if there's an emergency? What if there's a fire and we need to get emergency vehicles in there? You have all of these people in one area. What's the safety plan for that?
Let me just tell you, my concern is that on a small country road, as Ridge Road was and
Yeah.
is, even though it's been tarred.
Yeah.
It's a 2-lane road, and as we see it today, there is a phenomenal amount of traffic that comes down Ridge Road, so it beats the light at 41 and 22.
Right.
And with the traffic that would be perceived in this school debacle, I don't know what else to say, you'd have to make it a 4-lane highway because the traffic, and you have stop signs.
It's going to feel like a 4-lane
It's
highway. even
going to
if
be
it's not. Yeah.
impossible. And the public that live in Hibernia are certainly going to throw their hands up in the air. And that's east, a little east on Ridge, and the ones west. I mean, they won't be able to get out of their driveways or, their homes. They're going to be locked in. And if there's an emergency, an emergency,
Yeah.
a heart attack, a fire,
Well, there's also those issues. That's right.
injury, senior citizen falling down,
Mm-hmm.
there will not be able to be a vehicle to pass through
Yeah.
that area to get to these cul-de-sacs, to get to the homes where these people are.
You know, some of the things you're talking
It
about
is a
remind-
burden, Davis. It is
Yes.
a burden. This is not 21st thinking.
No.
This is arrogance, stupidity, collaboration, corruption. Everybody's got their finger and their hand in the pot and the pocket of the public. The public needs to speak out.
A lot of people
Not
have-
happy with it.
I agree, and a lot of people have started calling this a big box school, right? or a
Oh,
mega
big
school.
box. Oh, yeah.
And so the people who support it say, well, that's unfair because there's really these small groups. They call them pods. But let me tell you something. A big box, when we talk about a Walmart or a Costco, it may deliver goods efficiently, but what it does is it's always outside of the community, right?
Oh, yes.
It brings its own traffic nightmares
That's
that you're
right.
talking about. It's out of step
Yeah.
with the values of the mom and pop idea. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have change. That doesn't mean we shouldn't fix things up. But the scale of this is so large, and the impact on the neighborhood is going to be so significant. You've only hit the tip of the iceberg with the concerns you're raising.
And let me bring
This
it back.
is like the Titanic, because when it's going to go down,
Yeah.
all hands on deck will go submerged
Right.
with it.
Well, but let me bring it back, and let me say that, at least as far as our organization is concerned, we understand that there are challenges
Absolutely.
facing the
Yeah.
district. The district has presented, as have others, a false narrative that it's either this plan or no plan.
Well, that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. That's not accurate. We've also
It's
heard
not
things.
intelligent
Right. We've also heard
in an
well,
area with a lot of people who are supposed to have, brains.
We have an educated community. We have an affluent community. I firmly believe we can get people in a room to achieve a better plan, one that's fiscally responsible, educationally sound, and respects the neighborhood school model. None of us are afraid of change. My professional career is built around change. Okay?
That's an understatement.
So it's not about a fear of change, but change has to come with a very thoughtful, methodical process. And what's more important, when the facts change,
You have
you
to
have
change
to
with the facts.
you have to reassess. And we have seen just the opposite. We've seen material problems with the financials on this, yet no opportunity, a damn the torpedo strategy with this. I don't like to call it a big box. I prefer to call it a compound with the middle school compound.
We're getting financial stability until 2026 or 2033, depending on how you calculate it. We're still going to be paying off the bonds. I mean, I would never take a loan like that on my house, or it's diminishing returns. What we know also is that there was never an alternate plan pursued with as much gusto, as much verve, and as much due diligence as this plan was.
Due diligence.
There was a committee called CFAC, and it's a very awkward acronym. It's SCFFAC. It's the only acronym I've ever discovered that starts with a silent letter. So I can't explain that for you. But it's the Superintendent's Citizens Financial Facility Something Committee. Advisory Committee.
Wow,
Right.
this long.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's fine. And so it was a group of, there was actually 2 of these, but the most recent one that closed its work in the spring of 2014 was a group that investigated facilities, talked about possible sites. They came up with a series of recommendations for change. Those recommendations were things like 2 middle schools, no grade centers, right, where all the students go to one particular grade. We support an option that may not produce the most cost savings because we value community. And the chair of this committee was a community member named Len Tenner, who's given a lot of service to the community. He now is also chairing the Vote Yes group, but he had a very telling quotation in the Chicago Tribune in April or May of 2014 and said, "We found that the community wanted change, but it didn't want radical change." So the superintendent accepted these recommendations, and then it entered like a black box, because within a period of months, with no public input, 2 smaller committees met that were largely staffed with district employees, administrators, board members, and all of a sudden we got a middle school campus, which is not 2 middle schools, which is not a community model, and is in fact grade centers. And what we've been told since then is that there's no other way. We've looked at 2 middle schools, but we've costed it out. I can give you an example just from last night.
Sure.
So I think I have it here in my packet of stuff, maybe. I should have grabbed it first.
And as Davis is looking for that, let me just add that this secondary committee, a hand-picked committee, no minutes, no video, no public scrutiny, then came up in some fashion with a plan very much in contradiction to the CFAC recommendation.
So just last night at the board meeting, which we were both at, there was, this is part of a presentation. It's this is to show that there was an Edgewood-Northwood 2 middle school plan at one time that was looked at. And what the district wishes to say is that this is not financially feasible. And they have something I've circled here. They said on 5/21/15 in a Board of Education workshop, they proved that this plan would have cost $244 million. So what they want to say is, well, that's more than 198, so you should go with the 198. Well, I looked back at the documents from that 5/21 workshop that I was also at. Here they are, and I've circled where it says $201 million for that. Now, elsewhere, it did say 244, but this is with cost reductions that were put in. What we're missing here is a value engineering process. And if people at home who know a little bit about an architectural process, once you come up with a plan, you try to reduce costs by making compromises, making changes. The single middle school campus was value engineered. Costs were reduced, and in the process of reducing those costs, funding was taken away from the surviving elementary schools, whereas at the same time, that value engineering was never fully done for the 2 middle school. And on September 15th of last year, there was a big board meeting where they decided we're only officially going to pursue the 1 middle school campus. Well, one board member, a man I have a lot of respect for, named Eric Ephraim, made a statement that said, we didn't give the community what they asked for. We never did what we promised. I can tell the board doesn't want to do that, so I don't want to spend any more money on it, and I'm going to vote to do 1. But I just want to go on record as saying it never happened. That's really telling for us.
It is, and I must tell you, I'm so happy and proud that you gentlemen came to the program this evening, because you are doing a phenomenal job to enlighten the community. They have no idea what is going on behind closed doors. I will tell you that younger, when the kids were little, would go to these board meetings, and we would sit 5 minutes, and then they would all up and say, we're having a closed board meeting, and I would sit there. And I sat from 7:30 in the evening till 2 o'clock in the morning. They were hoping that we would all leave. There was one newspaper reporter that sat with me, and she said to me, "Does it always last like this?" I said, "Unfortunately, yes." And they never hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
I have the largest voice to say because I have 7 children that go to this district. We are married 50 years. I have the same husband, same wife, and 7 children. And I don't think there's anyone in this community that can make that statement. And I think my voice should have been heard.
I'm five
No.
children behind you.
No, you got time to catch
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
No one wanted to hear it, and they kept saying, rules out of order, out of behind.
Yeah.
What is this monkey business? Everybody has got a big head that their hat can't fit.
Well, that leads us, I think, into the next point, which were also events of last night, what they've termed as BDR3, Budget Deficit Reduction 3. What happened last night in a controversial, a split decision, 4-3, is that the school board voted, with no need to do so, that should the referendum fail, they will
Yes.
begin essentially immediate closures of not 3, but 4 schools beginning in 2017. Now, there were 3 dissenting opinions. So mind you, in a 4-3 decision, with no imminent reason to do so,
30 days before a major election.
the superintendent of the district recommended the closure of 4 schools, supported by the president of the Board of Education, as well as 3 other board members, as if to put a gun to your head and say, vote for it or we're closing your school.
There's an old, remember the magazine National Lampoon?
Yeah,
I think of
for
the
sure.
cover. There's one famous one I remember is like a Dalmatian on the cover with a gun to it. It says, buy this magazine or the dog gets it.
See,
That's what we're
You know,
dealing with here.
I have to just interject this for a minute. What is the annual salary of those people that you've just mentioned, and why does it need to be that high? And who needs these people to make decisions on our lives when I don't even think they live in this district?
Well, let me answer it a little bit different way. We've got a decreasing demographic, a shrinking number of students, yet an increase in the number of district employees.
For what reason?
So I forget off the top of my head the number of assistant superintendents we have, principals at each school. I think there are multiple opportunities to put a pencil to costs and expenditures
Just
throughout our school system. Yes.
You know, it's interesting because I work in higher education. I'm an administrator. My job mirrors in some way the job of the cabinet. Because I'm also a professor, my job is sort of temporary, and one day I go back to being a professor again. So I see my job as holding a kind of public trust for the rest of the faculty.
You do.
My job is not to grow things that don't need to be grown. My job is to cut things that should be cut, to take away paperwork, to make things easier, to sort of be a steward of the shared vision that we all have.
Okay.
Because I'm a member of the community, worked at the institution for many years. I plan to work there for many more. And I know that what I'm doing is part of that community. And I know that every decision that I have a hand in has to be a consensus-based decision. So the BDR, the budget deficit reduction that Lauren was referring to, so 4 schools, one of them had never been mentioned as a possibility for closure. Now I agree with Lauren 100% that this was not necessary now, but let's pretend that it was. One of them has been only, this is Ravinia School, talked about for only 30 days. So we've had a process that people will tell you, this plan has been 4 years, 6 years of coming up with it, and now we've spent 30 days with no public input, no committees, no ways of meaningfully interacting with the people who look there, no discussion with business owners,
Oh,
and
we
in a
didn't even
4-3
think about
vote,
that
all of
yet.
a sudden, we're shutting it
Didn't
down. This is pressure to get people to vote for the referendum and saying, you do it or you lose it. It's an all or nothing choice. Bev, have you ever encountered a problem of this magnitude that has only one possible solution?
I will tell you what bothers me the very most is it's either do it my way
Yeah.
or hit the highway. Now, if the public here in Highland Park says, I'm not going to pressure me, I'll sell my home and you won't have anyone here. We'll get people that, we don't need to be here. We're here because our children grew up here, some of them reside here, whatever, and our grandchildren. But if you want to gouge out our eyes so that we can't see what you're doing, we don't need to be here. We can go all elsewhere, pick up wherever we need to pick up. Life, as long as we're breathing, is okay.
Well, there's also this concept, words being thrown around, magical, visionary, 21st century learning.
Future ready.
Future ready. I have no evidence that our children are currently at a disadvantage in the 21st
You know,
century
Laura, let
economy.
me just say something. We're in the 21st century, and everybody puts on their pants one leg at a time.
Yeah.
We haven't done anything more dramatic than that, and everybody uses the hygienic, facilities the same way. In the 21st century, who's the visionary? I want to know what the person's name is, where the person lives, what's their background, do they have children, how their lifestyle is.
Right, Bev, it's not about the buildings. It's
Of
about
course
what
not.
goes on inside
Yes.
of the buildings.
Okay.
right.
We all want safe schools. We all want our children to be in a safe environment. It is not about do nothing or this plan. We believe there's a better path, a better way, a way that's fiscally responsible, a way that's educationally sound, and a way that respects the
values of
community
the
school model.
Davis, was this a threat that you were told or you knew that 4 schools will be
Well,
closed?
they voted last night that if the referendum fails, the board says we will not put forward another plan and we will close schools. I believe, since it is not warranted by the actual financial picture, I mean, there are financial problems in the district, but not tomorrow. And the 3 dissenting voices on the board, and they should be commended, it was Samantha Stolberg, Carla Livney, and Eric Ephraim. And Carla particularly took a great stand where she read about a 4-minute prepared speech where she indicated that the closure of this 4th school, at least, is not necessary right now. What is fair is to present a referendum, let people vote on that referendum on the merits of the plan. I don't think there's a lot of merits, but let people have their vote. And then afterward, you can talk about contingency plans. You can talk about what you have to do. You can talk about another plan B. But to say, you vote for it or we close it, there's a word for that, Washington Monument Syndrome, right? When the government shuts down,
Yeah.
they put barricades around
Yeah,
the
they
Washington
do.
Monument. They don't put it around the gates to a national park that nobody can see. They put it around the most visible thing that they think cuts to the heart of the matter. So you're so angry. They're closed the Washington Monument. We got to get the government, I believe the people doing it believe it's the right thing to do, but I believe anybody outside the Bay of Pigs groupthink can see this for what it is.
I'm telling you, I feel the corruption in here. Maybe you don't want to say the word. I have not a problem to say
Yeah.
the word. There is a bottom line here, and who's going to get how much money if they've already got it out and it's being processed. Whatever the person is who is initiating this, there's going to be a bonus in his envelope at the end of the month, and at our expense and our children and our grandchildren's expense, they're going to just have a good time on our back.
I don't want to doubt the integrity of the board, but I
No.
do believe that boards can make wrong decisions. And I believe that this is a wrong decision.
You're too calm. I've lived here 40 years, and I can tell you, corruption is at hand. I'm telling you, I would be happy to invite any of the members of the board or all of the board to come on here. And if you're a board member watching this, please do contact me. Vic, you want to put up my email? It's bev.cooperscorner@yahoo.com. Contact me and say, hey, I'm outraged. I want to come on the program.
Yeah.
You do it. I want you on the program. Let's hear what you have to say. And let's see how much input you have after being in this area for 40 years. Can you make that statement? What is your statement going to say?
And what is really concerning to me is that there are also scalable approaches. We don't need to basically take the entire finances of the district and bet it on a single plan. We can take an action. There can be repairs to certain schools, perhaps closure of 1 or 2 schools. This can be done in a graded fashion. It can be reassessed after several years. We can see where we're at. We can come back to the community, whether it's in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. This plan, we know we're going to be back within 10 years anyway, only 4 to 5 years after, theoretically, assuming all their targets are met, construction, financial, we'll be back in the same position in 10 years. That's what is so absurd to me.
And so often they're saying, if we don't do anything, we're putting Band-Aids on the schools, we're kicking the can down the road. That's exactly what this plan does. It kicks the can down the road.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to go so far. I understand, I appreciate your passion. I'm not going to go so far as to say the board is corrupt. From my perspective of watching this, it's just a process that's gone wrong.
If you're telling me
Yeah.
that you've already seen that their documentation is wrong from what they've already stated, orally, that the amounts are not correct,
Right.
but they've not alerted the public to that, I want to know
Yeah.
who's the accountant that's doing this.
I think these are the wrong ways to proceed, but I'm not going to go so far as to sort of attribute it to a conspiracy. I don't know that to be true.
Neither do I,
Right.
but when you see a duck and you hear it quack and it walks down the road like a duck, it's got to be a duck, especially if it's got feathers.
Well, let me encourage you to do what you've said. Invite them on.
I
and
do.
Let them,
I publicly invite anybody who is a member of the District 112 school board to come on my program and to air whatever you think you would like to do regarding this. I mean, we've got one side of the issue. We'd love to have the other side. Public invitation, and please pick me up on it. I'd love to have you here. We'll make room for anybody and everybody who wants to come.
What's interesting is that some of the things you're saying about the value of community and the way that you think this is not the right plan.
This is not the right way to do
have been
this.
echoed by some prominent former officials, and so there have been statements from former Mayor Geraci in opposing the plan, from former Mayor Belsky, from the longest-serving councilman in Highland Park history,
Michael Brenner,
and
yeah.
also from Steve Mandel, have all made statements saying they think this is the wrong idea for Highland Park.
Wrong, absolutely wrong.
Now,
my opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion. I'm entitled to that.
That's right.
And I have a venue that I can make my opinion heard.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you, I had to sit there from 7 o'clock in the evening till 2 o'clock in the morning, and no one wanted to hear my opinion.
Yeah.
But I paid taxes and sent 7 kids to that school.
You certainly did. And it's hard. I mean, I didn't know much about how board meetings work or how any of these processes worked before I became involved. And it's very frustrating, right, to go to a meeting and to have your 3 minutes.
Well,
to
it's
speak
even
and-
worse when you
yeah.
have to sit in that little chair
Yes.
in the kindergarten class. That's what they had.
Oh, they had better chairs.
Yeah,
now,
they
so,
had
yeah.
us sitting in that little
Yeah,
bitty.
but we didn't have to do
And
that.
I tell you that reporter, she was just outraged. She said,
Yeah.
"This is really."
but
slap in the
remember, we
face."
do have a remedy. There is an election in 2017.
Oh yes, there is
4
a
board
remedy.
seats will be up, and that, as citizens and as taxpayers, that's our mechanism for voicing our opinion.
But we have something to do before that. And so we have told you why we're voting no. And we encourage everyone at home to vote, to go out and vote,
They
vote your
need
conscience.
to know and be educated,
That's
know
right.
the truth. You need to vote. Don't just vote your heart. Vote your mind. You're being educated. You're being told what's going on. These are things perhaps you are not aware of, as the smart meters, of which I told you last week that I was going to connect with. And I did. The city manager of Highland Park. I did speak with Gita Newkirk, and I was told that she was going to contact State Representative Julie Morrison and Scott Drury and see what they had to say on it, because that's the only way that they could connect, because the public has no idea of the threat, the human threat of life with these new smart meters that give off radiation waves, cause brain cancer, cause leukemia, cause death. Mayor Rotering is worried about guns in the school, but what about radiation killing the families in their houses? Does this want to be another Flint, Michigan? We'll take it up. They want to save money, because who's going to make the money? The idea is this machines, this technology costs money. Someone's going to make $1 trillion and kill Highland Park. I mean, what are they trying to do? They want to force us out by the school district and then put these smart meters in?
I know very little about the smart meters.
Oh, there is a meeting. Thank you. That was a good.
Tell me about it, yeah, because I don't know. I'm not educated on this issue.
That was on February 22nd. which is coming up Monday, there will be a meeting up in Lake Bluff.
Okay.
And I think it is the City Hall, but you can call and find out. The Vice President of Commonwealth Edison will be there. And he's going to tell everybody just how safe this is. And they're not going to tell you how many people died of brain cancer, but I think I can bring that up. So if you are listening, if you are watching, February 22nd, Lake Bluff, the smart meters, because they are a threat to our lives. Do not let them in your home. They cause fires.
Do we have a choice, Bev? Are we able to say
you
we don't
have
want
a choice? However, Commonwealth Edison will charge you to opt out for 2 years at $21 a month on your electric bill.
And then what happens at the end of 2
And
years?
then they're going to put the gun to your head. And then
Buy this magazine or the dog
everybody
gets
is forced to have it because it's like the Gestapo's. They're going to say you're going to die. This is the means of way you're going to die. So I very calmly made the comment to Gita Newkirk and said if Mayor Rodering and all the city council members wish to take it in their house, and when they get brain cancer and their children get leukemia, and for 2 years, we, the public and residents of Highland Park will think about having them installed. But there is no law that says we have to. We can opt out permanently, but we need to contact Julie Morrison and Scott Drury and let them bring it up before the legislature, because the governor in now has sold our souls to the devil, which is ComEd, and he signed the contract to go ahead without informing the public. No voice is being heard. Get a grassroots organization.
It's interesting because as you say that, sold the soul, that reminds me of a statement that this board member, Carla Livney, made last night when she was talking about why we shouldn't be doing the closure of this fourth school now. And she had a really interesting statement, which I have a lot of respect for. She said, the school board is the community's soul. And what she means is when they're doing it right, they're representing the spirit of the community, along with the financial realities. And what I'm worried about here is that the numbers, which I don't believe are correct, have become detached from what it is to live in Highland Park.
That's why I say the corruption is there. Use the word in whatever fashion you like. It still means wrongdoing.
Yeah.
And before we get any further, because time is fleeting.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
Yes. Please, I know, thank you, I see. Please, people want to get in contact with you.
Yeah.
So how can they reach you?
It's a great question, and so we have a website.
Okay.
I think it's on the screen,
it will go up
so
in a
go
minute.
back on, right? care112hp.com.
Okay.
You have to be careful to type it correctly, because I learned recently that if you mistype it, you get redirected to the Yes Group site. They're cyber squatting. They're cyber squatting on our site.
So it should be
care112hp.com. That's right. Now we also, if you're on Facebook, just searching for CARE, Citizens Against the Referendum, we have a pretty robust Facebook page. There's a lot of interesting discussion and articles. I know not everybody uses that, but many people do.
Okay.
And you can also email us at care112hp@gmail.com.
At Gmail, okay.
Care112hp.
We don't have that one up, but
right,
that's
but it's
okay.
the same as the website, so you can remember it that way.
And if anyone is listening or watching, as we know that you will, this will be on YouTube, on my YouTube, and we'll go all over the world. And let's have the input on what that is.
Yeah.
And there is my YouTube. It's youtube.com/North Shore Live CC, Cooper's Corner. And this will be on the YouTube. And this is a very interesting, besides educational forum that we've got going here. And we need to let the public know March 15th is voting. But there's an early voting, which is February 29th.
That's right. I think there's 2 weeks of early voting. I believe it's at the police station where we are.
Right here. Yeah. Before you vote, before you cast your vote, please understand the ramifications of what you are voting. If you don't know, contact someone who does. You don't have to vote directly on February 29th. Wait till March the 15th.
Yeah.
You can still vote by mail as well.
And you can vote
Yeah.
by mail. But do not be falsely lured into something that you're totally unaware of, or
Well, and there's good
can't
reason to
do.
even, I want everyone to vote, but like the person told me this morning, I voted yes, and then I learned
Yeah.
about this financial
Oh, no,
catastrophe,
no,
right?
no. You need to know both
Gotta get
sides,
educated, yeah.
Right.
both sides of the issue.
And I would say if you support it, vote for it.
Yeah.
But
if you
don't vote for it because you're afraid.
You're afraid.
No, you have to have a voice.
Believe it. If you believe in it, then sure.
Okay, and so you better be very, very well-to-do, because your taxes are going to go sky high.
Right.
The interruption in your family life is going to be really decimated all over the place, because there's not going to be a community area school.
It's a city plan
It's-
being presented
This
as an
is
education
not
plan.
Chicago.
Right.
This is a suburban area.
Unfortunately, it's a referendum on the scale of the size of Chicago.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Per capita, this is the biggest referendum in the
well,
state of
this
Illinois.
is wrong. My
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And if I have a vote and it's my opinion, that's what I'm saying. I'm voting
Absolutely.
no. I'm
As am
voting
I.
no. We hope that you're knowledgeable. Our viewers are very knowledgeable, very intellectual, very educated, and they know when they're being ripped off. And that's the real word, ripped off, because some highfalutin advertising agency is going to ram and sell something down our throat that we don't want, because they think the beautiful people of Highland Park want. That's a bunch of baloney. Not true. Speak your mind, know what you want to do. Your money, your dollars, your life, your family, your children are all at stake. They're going to close the schools. Have a voice. Call City Hall. I did. I called City Hall, and they took my call, and I told them what I thought.
Yeah.
And they answered it, and Gita Newhouse is supposed to get back to me. Now, I've been waiting. It is
But
almost
let me
a
remind
week.
you, it's also the school board is different than City Hall.
In
So
this
peop-
case, it's a separate taxing body,
so that
not connected to City Hall.
right, so that individuals should contact members of the Board of Education.
But if
or
they
the
don't
district.
know, they can call City Hall to
Yes.
ask.
City Hall will tell them where to go.
That's
Absolutely
right. Ask.
Yeah.
City Hall is your base, and let them go there, get the information, then they can call each one.
Yeah.
And like I say, this is just a glorified PIG, and that's about it. It's a pig, and it's of no value, not to us here in Highland Park.
I hear the theme music
Oh,
coming
that's
on.
our
Is it
music.
Paca Bell?
Yes, it is. Well, thank you for allowing us in your home or your place of business. I hope you enjoy this evening. It wasn't for entertainment, it's for education and information. Please do connect with these gentlemen, connect with care 112hp.com, and get informed before you vote. And voting is March the 15th. Vote with your head, not your heart. And
That's right.
and you'll save a lot of grief for everyone. Be a good person. That's the way to do it. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening, a very safe week. See you next week on North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. Please watch our YouTube. I invite you, please. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Beth.
so much,
Appreciate
Beth.
it.
That was
Great.
great.